My neighbor's wife came over after fighting with her husband. She asked, "Can I stay here tonight?" I was halfway through locking my front door when someone knocked so hard the wood rattled. At first, I thought it was an emergency. When I opened it, my neighbor's wife, Emma, stood on my porch with tears streaming down her face. She wasn't carrying luggage, only a small backpack clutched tightly against her chest. Her hands trembled as she whispered something I never expected to hear. "Can I stay here tonight?" I looked past her toward the dark street. Their house sat only 40 feet away. Every light inside was on. Her husband, Daniel, was nowhere in sight. That single question pulled me into a night that would change all of our lives forever. My name is Ryan, and until that evening, I believed I knew my neighbors. I had lived in Maple Street for almost 6 years. It was one of those quiet neighborhoods where everyone waved politely, borrowed lawn equipment, and complained about the weather. Daniel and Emma had moved in 2 years earlier. Daniel was friendly enough. He loved fixing cars in his garage and always greeted me with a smile. Every Saturday morning, I could hear children practicing piano through their open windows. They looked like the perfect couple. At least that's what everyone thought. I stepped aside. "Come in." She hesitated. "I don't want to cause trouble." "You already look like you've been through enough." She slowly entered. The moment the door closed, she burst into tears. I had never seen anyone try so hard to stay strong while completely falling apart. I handed her a glass of water. "You don't have to tell me anything you don't want to." She nodded, trying to catch her breath. "We argued. I guessed. It got worse than usual." Those words stayed with me. Worse than usual. How many arguments had there been? How much had everyone else missed? I offered her my couch. "You can stay tonight." She looked relieved. "Thank you." I made coffee even though it was nearly 10 at night. Neither of us drank much of it. Silence filled the room until she finally spoke. "Do you ever realize you've been pretending to be happy for so long that you forget what happiness actually feels like?" I didn't know how to answer, so I simply listened. She told me they had been struggling for over a year. Money, stress, failed plans, long hours. The little disagreements had slowly become daily battles. "They weren't always like this," she said quietly. "Daniel used to laugh all the time." "What changed?" "He lost his construction company." I remembered hearing something about that. A business partner had disappeared with company funds. Daniel had lost almost everything. "He blamed himself," Emma continued. "And then? He started blaming everyone else." Around midnight my phone buzzed. "Daniel." I stared at the screen. Emma looked terrified. "You don't have to answer." But I did. "Hello? Ryan." His voice sounded exhausted. "Is Emma there?" I hesitated. "Yes." A long silence followed. I figured, she's safe. "I know." Another pause. "I'm not coming over." His words surprised me. "I just wanted to know she's okay." "You don't want to speak with her?" "I do." His voice cracked. "But not tonight." The call ended. Emma looked confused. "He isn't coming?" "No." She stared at the floor. "That's not like him." Around 6 in the morning, I woke to the smell of pancakes. Emma stood in my kitchen, wearing one of my old hoodies because her clothes had gotten soaked in the rain. "I hope you don't mind," she smiled weakly. I needed something normal. I laughed. "You found pancake mix?" "It was hidden." "You searched my cabinets?" I was hungry. For the first time all night, we both smiled. Then someone knocked. Daniel. I opened the door only halfway. He looked awful. Dark circles under his eyes, unshaven, holding a paper bag. "I'm not here to fight." I nodded. He slowly held up the bag. "It's her asthma medicine." Emma had forgotten it. He looked past me, but didn't step inside. "Can you give it to her?" I took it. "She can keep the house." "What?" I'm leaving. I frowned. What are you talking about? I signed a lease this morning. My stomach dropped. You made that decision overnight? I've been thinking about it for months. He looked completely defeated. I keep making her life worse. Before I could respond, he walked away. Emma stood behind me. She had heard everything. That afternoon, she packed a few more things from their house while Daniel stayed gone. Days passed, then weeks. They officially separated. The neighborhood filled with rumors. Some blamed Daniel, others blamed Emma. Nobody actually knew what had happened. I stayed out of it. Emma eventually rented a small apartment across town. Oddly enough, we became real friends. Not because of that night, because of everything afterward. We had coffee once a week. Sometimes we talked, sometimes we didn't. Healing doesn't always require words. 3 months later, Daniel knocked on my door again. This time he looked healthier. He had found work managing a hardware store. I need a favor. What kind? I wrote Emma a letter. He handed me an envelope. I don't expect forgiveness. Then why write it? Because apologies aren't supposed to expect anything. I admired that answer. I delivered the letter. Emma didn't open it immediately. She placed it on her table. Ready. 2 weeks later she called me. I finally opened it. And? What do you mean? He admitted everything. What do you mean? He admitted he was angry with himself. Not me. She cried quietly. He said he forgot I was his wife, not his enemy. Months passed again. One evening I met Daniel for dinner. He looked nervous. We've started counseling. I nearly smiled. Together? He nodded. Very slowly. No promises, but we're trying. Trying. Sometimes that's the bravest word in the English language. Another 6 months went by. I rarely saw either of them. Life became busy. Then one Saturday morning someone knocked on my door again. This time both Daniel and Emma stood there together. Neither spoke for a moment. Then Emma smiled. We brought pie. Daniel laughed. And an apology. For what? Emma answered first. For dragging you into the hardest night of our marriage. Daniel nodded. You are a better friend than I deserved. I invited them inside. We spent hours talking, really talking. No pretending, no fake smiles. Daniel admitted therapy had forced him to confront years of buried shame. Emma admitted she had stopped telling him how lonely she felt because she feared making things worse. Neither of them had been villains. Neither had been perfect. They had simply become strangers, living in the same house. Over time, they found each other again. Not because love magically fixed everything. Because they finally learned that love without honesty eventually collapses. As the months turned into a year, their relationship slowly rebuilt itself. Brick by brick. Conversation by conversation. Trust by trust. Watching them taught me something unexpected. People often imagine broken relationships shatter all at once. They don't. Most break quietly. One ignored conversation. One swallowed feeling. One unfinished apology at a time. Healing works the same way. It happens slowly. One honest sentence. One forgiven mistake. One hopeful morning at a time. Nearly 2 years after Emma knocked on my door, asking if she could stay the night, our street held its annual neighborhood barbecue. Children laughed in the yards. Music drifted through the air. Daniel grilled burgers, while Emma played guitar with several neighborhood kids singing beside her. No one looking at them would have guessed how close they had come to losing everything. At sunset, Daniel walked over carrying 2 drinks. You know, he said, I almost blamed you. For what? For letting her stay. What changed your mind? He smiled. Therapy. We both laughed. Then he grew serious. If you had turned her away, I don't think we'd be standing here today. I didn't know what to say. Sometimes helping someone isn't about solving their problems. Sometimes it's simply opening your door. As darkness settled over Maple Street, Emma joined us. She slipped her hand into Daniel's. Not dramatically, not for show. Just naturally. The way people do when they finally found their way home. I watched the lights glow across the neighborhood and realized something. That terrifying knock on my door hadn't been the beginning of the end for their marriage. It had been the beginning of the truth. And sometimes the truth hurts before it heals. Whenever people ask me why I never moved away from Maple Street, I think back to that rainy night. To a frightened woman holding a backpack. To a broken husband carrying forgotten medicine. To a marriage that survived not because life became easy, but because two people chose, day after day, to become better than they had been the day before. Every now and then, when I hear laughter drifting over from their backyard, I remember Emma's trembling voice asking, "Can I stay here tonight?" I'm grateful I said yes. Not because I saved their marriage. I didn't. They saved it themselves. I simply gave hope a safe place to spend one difficult night.